Johnny Cofield with 4 Quarters Online. I'm here with Bay High head coach Jeremy Brown. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm good, Coach. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Uh, what I like to do, and I think we discussed it earlier, is I like to find out how did you get where you are becoming a coach? Did you come out of college or whatever, want to be a coach? Or is something you just got into? I mean, tell me about how you got started in coaching.
Well, I'm a coach's son. My dad coached high school football and basketball for about 30 years. I knew at a young age I wanted to coach. I've always, it's kind of funny. I always said I was going to be a head basketball coach. I love basketball. Always have loved playing basketball. I tell everybody I was a basketball player trapped in a football player's body. But my dad coached football and basketball growing up. I always said I was going to coach basketball, and I started out coaching basketball. I've coached freshman basketball. I was the head JV basketball coach at Venice High School when I moved down there, Sarasota Booker. When I first got into coaching, I was assistant JV football coach and the head freshman basketball coach at Rutherford here in Panama City. And when I went down to Venice to coach football for the first time at the varsity level, I coached freshman basketball. I coached JV basketball. Wound up being a varsity assistant coach. I coached basketball every school I've ever coached at until I got to Panama City. When I got the Mosley job, the district you were as a head football coach you were considered an administrator, and so I wasn't allowed to coach basketball. So I stopped coaching basketball at that time, and that's kind of how I got into coaching. And when I was in Jefferson County, I coached basketball. And thought when I went there, I thought I may have a chance to be the head basketball coach after a year or two. And then Coach Spears, he left after his first year as the head coach and AD, and took the job at Swanee. And the principal told me, he said, "You're the new football coach." And I said, "Coach," I'm going to Georgia to coach basketball. I was actually going up to Athens to Clark Central. I was going up there with Leroy Riles. I was going to go up there and coach his defensive line and coach basketball. And Dr. Ryan at Jefferson County called me in. He said, "No," he said, "You're going to coach. He said, "You're going to coach football here." And I said, "Coach, I'm going to Georgia." And he said, "No, I've already talked to your wife. She don't want to move to Georgia, so you're not going to Georgia."
But when you coach, what position did you start off coaching? Football.
I'm an offensive line. I'm an offensive line coach by trade. I played offensive line in high school, played offensive line in college. I've always coached the offensive line. Now, when I got into coaching back in the mid '90s at Rutherford, I coached the offensive line, and then I was the defensive coordinator. We only had two or three coaches. You know what I mean? How that went. But I've kind of always prided myself on being an offensive line coach. I think those kids have always, as an offensive lineman, always felt like we were kind of always, underappreciated. The coaches didn't always. It was always more of that, go out there and block. Didn't spend a ton of time. So I've always prided myself on really trying to love on the big kids and get them to play at a high level, get them to play physical, but also build a relationship with them.
Well, so you what you're telling us, you should have been a basketball coach, but you end up being football. You still love basketball it sounds like it to me.
Yeah, I do. I do love basketball. It was kind of funny because when I went to Jefferson and thought I had a chance to be the head basketball coach after a year or two, and never really had much of a desire to be a head football coach. I enjoyed being I've always said like man, I can be a head varsity basketball coach and run somebody's JV football program or just coach their offensive line, and I would be very content doing that. And everything changed when I got to Jefferson County and I became the football coach. My second year as a head coach, we won a state championship. And
Yeah.
So that kind of put a nix in the whole basketball thing.
Yes. The thoughts of changing and going to basketball kind of went out the window. But because I had a chance to coach against you and I watched you as different programs you went to, and you had. I didn't know in the past. What high school was you at? Did you play at Panama City?
My dad was the head coach at Rutherford. I played at Rutherford my 9th, 10th, and 11th grade year, and then my dad retired, and my family moved, and so I transferred to Bay High and played my senior year, which is where I'm coaching at now.
So you're a tornado.
That's right. I'm a little bit of both. I'm a tornado, but I spent my whole sixth grade and middle school years, and the first part of my, the first few years of my high school, and on the east side of town. So I still got a special place in my heart for Rutherford and the kids and the community on that side of town.
But Coach, we talked earlier about the kids getting recruited and some of the things that the coaches will have to do. What is your philosophy on that when you talk about get your kids? Can you designate a kid when you first see them in 9th or 10th grade, whether you can tell what level they're going to be in college, or if they a college prospect?
Yeah, I think certain kids, a kid that we have right now in the program that, that we kind of knew last year as a ninth grader that we felt like he had the potential of being a Power 5 Division I guy. JT Bowden, you know what I mean. Last year as a ninth grader, he was 6'5", and long and could run, played basketball, was very athletic. So we thought like, man, this kid can be he's got a Division I body. You know what I mean? He passes the coach, as well as I do, man. It's all about the eye test, and he passes the eye test, and so we kind of we started talking to him early. You know what I mean? So a kid like that, yeah. Then you've got some kids that you see him in the ninth grade, and you're like, man, this kid is, he can run, he can hit, he can jump, he can do a lot of different things, but is he going to get a little bit bigger? You know what I mean? Is he ever going to get to the point where he really passes the eye test? Kind of our philosophy, my philosophy on recruiting is we tell the kids control what they can control. You know what I mean? We're going to control what we can control as coaches. We're going to coach them as hard as we can. We're going to get them in the weight room. We're going to teach them football. We're going to film games. We're going to get their film out. We're going to get them to camps. We're going to do all that stuff. And then they've got to take care of business in the classroom. They've got to do the extra stuff as far as taking care of their bodies and putting on weight or losing weight, whichever the case may be. And when they get to these camps, they got to perform. You know what I mean? They got to go out there and they got to show that they're that type of player. One of the things I think that we lose sight of in the recruiting thing is that I feel like there's a school for any kid that wants to go to college and play football. Every kid can't play at Auburn or Alabama or Georgia or Florida State, but I think there's a school for any kid that wants to go play football, and I try to do a good job of relaying that message to the parents and letting them understand that, the only two levels of football that are full ride, paying for everything is Division I and 1AA. I mean, Division II, you're partial. Division III, you're not getting hardly anything. NAIA is partial. So it's, if you're a full Pell kid, then you're not going to pay that much. But if you're not a Pell kid, you're still going to pay out of pocket. And we try to get the parents to understand that, yeah, your son can, he can go to a Birmingham Southern, but you're going to have to pay some money. And if you're willing to do that, then and he wants to play college football, man, we're all for it. But I think being honest with them as far as that goes, I think, everybody thinks that every school is a full ride, and it's not. You know what I mean? And we try to get the kids to understand that, and but also in that process, let them know that going to play college football has nothing to do with being a great high school football player. I've coached some really, really good high school football players that I tell people all the time. One of my best offensive linemen I've ever coached is a kid named Jonathan Costanza that played for me at Venice. He started at offensive guard on a 5'6" football team at 185 pounds, and one of the best ones I've ever coached. And he almost quit football his senior year because he said all of his buddies were going to college and he wasn't. And I'll never forget sitting down with him in my classroom and saying, son, what does being a really good high school football have to do with going to college? I said, nobody said you had to go to college to play football. And he was like, well, I just feel like I'm wasting my time. I said, well, what do you want to do after high school? He said, well, Coach, I like working with my hands. And I said, well, let's get you into the vocational school. I said, think about all the things you learned in football that will help you be a great employee, or, you might own your own business one day. And so we got him through that, and he wound up playing for us as a really good player. And he owns his own air conditioning company now. He's making more money than he makes twice more money as I do. You know what I mean? So just trying to be honest with kids in the recruiting process.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. I've been around a little bit, and a lot of people think that everybody's a D1. They go to these people on the outside. I won't call the names up, and they tell them some stories, and you as the coach have to deal with it.
Right.
But I've seen, some of the kids that you dealt with when you won your first state title. Well, I mean, going back to that at the program when you guys first got there to Jefferson County, what did y'all do to bring them to the point where I think y'all won like in 3 years after you got there. Was it?
Yeah,
Uh,
I came in that first year with Coach Spears, and we won the district and had some, first time they had done that in a while. And then my second year as the head coach, we won the state championship.
and what did y'all do? I mean, when you got with the kids, because they were losing till you got there. What changed? The culture? What was it?
Yeah, I think obviously the culture. I tell people all the time, Coach Spears did he had such a huge part in our success in year two, winning the state championship. That first year he came in as the head coach. We kind of rebuilt the culture. We just love the kids. You know what I mean? We were told when we got there that, oh, you can't have a summer program, the kids won't come. And well, what we did to combat that is we loaded up our own cars and went and picked kids up and brought them to workouts, and we fed them, and we redid the locker room so the kids had a nice place to hang out, and you know what I mean, and so just let them know that we cared about them, and then I felt like probably one of the best things we did at Jefferson with the culture and the kids realizing, man, we got some coaches here that really care about us and love us, and we were able to put a fence around Jefferson County. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know.
We were able to get kids back from Leon County, and then keep kids from going over there for those 3 years, and we had a lot of success because of that.
Yeah, y'all did put a fence around the place. A couple of kids I know at the school I was at, they left and went back home.
Yeah,
But still, they still have that same problem. Some of the kids are still in Leon County.
that's
But
right.
you guys did I saw a great turnaround in the program. I was like, man, kids kids would usually come over there and we didn't have to go ask anybody to come. They come looking for us. And
And
you
you know,
guys came in. Coach,
and I think now at Jefferson, with if the school district and the board and everybody will give Lenore's Footman some support. He's got a he's got the he's got the name, he's got the success. He's a guy that he's born and raised in Jefferson County, and he's one of those kids that was told his whole life what he couldn't do, and he wound up. He was a great high school player, went to Alcorn State, broke a bunch of records, got his degree, and now he's back. As a young black male, he's an example of what everybody says that they can't do. He's an example of that you can do it, and if the folks over there would just get behind him and give him some support and let him hire some coaches and get the facilities to where the kids have something to be proud of, Jefferson County could be in really good hands for the next 10 to 15 years, because Lenore is not. He's not looking to go anywhere else. That's home to him.
right.
That's what he wants to do, and I pray that they'll get out of his way and give him some support, and he can do some special things over there, because besides being a great coach, he's a great dad, and he's a great person, and that's the type of guys you want leading your kids.
Yeah, right. Now you're at Bay High School right now. Where you see your school? Where you see your team and program going as far as in the future? I know you're struggling a little bit right now, but where you see the Bay High Tornadoes going?
Yeah, we're there's no secret. We came in last year and we inherited a really big senior class with some guys that had been in the program, and we didn't sprinkle any magic dust over it. We just came in and kind of talked about the culture and changed the culture, and probably added a little bit more accountability and a little bit more structure, and I think one of the things that we were able to do last year is the administration here, they let me bring in some coaches. So we've got 6-7 coaches on staff now that are teachers, and which that helps. But this year we're very young. We this past Friday night we started 6 sophomores and 2 freshmen on offense, and we started 2 seniors on defense. And so we're young, but we feel like this year, we're going to take our lumps, and it's just what you do sometimes when you come in and you take over a program and you're kind of trying to rebuild some things. You're going to have that year where you've got to get some young kids some playing time, and we didn't put a schedule together of a team that was feeling sorry for ourselves. We put a schedule together. We played Niceville we played up with Niceville, Arnold, Mosley. We're going to Gaston County this week. Then we got Pensacola High. Because we want our kids to understand what it takes compete at a high level. But we really feel like after this year, moving into next year and the year after, we think we've got a special group. We think we've got a chance to be really good the next 3 to 5 years. We know some of the middle school kids that are coming up. My son's age group, he's in the 8th grade. Some of his buddies that he's been playing with that are coming up. We feel like those guys are, they go to Jinx. They're in kind of our feeder system kind of deal. And so we just feel like with the kids we have this year and the ones we have coming up, we feel like Bayhi's in a really good place right now for the next 5 to 6 years as far as putting together consecutive year to year winning seasons, district championships, and deep playoff runs.
Hey, Coach, the last thing I want to ask you, if I'm a young guy, going into the profession of coaching, what advice would you give them?
Man, it's kind of been my philosophy since I started coaching, 23 years ago. You know what I mean? Don't get so caught up in the X's and O's. Don't get caught up in all that. Understand the big picture. You know what I mean? Understand the platform that you have as a coach. This, coach, as well as I do. Just the title of coach before your name adds so much. It adds so much weight. There's so much credibility to that, and with that, there's a lot of responsibility. And love the kids. You know what I mean? Understand the relationships are so much more important than the X's and O's. The relationships that you build with kids, being able to use your platform to share Christ with kids. I told Steve McCarr, the FCA guy there over there in Tallahassee years ago, you know what I mean, that my philosophy is that, when I die one day, I know I'm going to heaven, and Jesus is not going to ask me to see my state championship rings. He's not going to want to see those. He's going to want to say, Coach, how many crowns did you get? How many kids did you use your platform that I gave you to tell kids about me? And that's just me personally. That's what I would tell a young coach is, man, don't get so wrapped up in the wins and losses and the X's and O's, and understand your platform and build relationships with kids, because when the kids know you love them and the kids love you, the wins seem to always take care of themselves. You always seem to win more than you lose.